Morning. Morning.
See, that's right in the front. Exactly. We need a lot of that.
A couple days ago,
She responded.
she's so unusually good on her
Yeah, he's in economics. That's something to consider. Maybe you know if this is really he's out
I know, seriously.
That's the easiest way. I think I'll have more shit. You know what? People ought to be very enthusiastic. Yeah, that's
This way.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, very exciting. Yeah. A little terrifying, but yes, it is awesome. It's all very good. So, yeah. Oh, it's already going by very quickly. It's kind of crazy to think about, but yeah. I'm sorry. 13. We'll be 14 on June 2nd. So, yeah. Every time like you realize that, oh wow, she's only 13 weeks. It's like we're already at the 14-week mark. You know, like I tend to find the right around. Yeah, we had so yeah. I don't know exactly
To make it stop.
Yeah. And it's, you know, I've always wanted to go through this.
Oh, we have to find out what's going on.
Official praise after. It might, when it goes on present mode, it might be more clear. All about it. I just put this in front of the profile. But you don't really know about it. Not yet.
Good morning, everybody. Ooh. Is that really loud? Oh, it's wonderful. Okay. Usually I'm told I'm too loud, so I don't even need a mic, but I'm glad that this helps. So good morning. I just want to welcome all of you to our adult forum, and we are going to be presenting our search committee update for the new dean and rector. And let's see here. So I have, I think most of our members here today. So I'm just going to ask that either they stand or raise their hand. But Connie and Draco, she's our co-chair, along with Chip Montgomery, who's our co-chair. And then we have Cameron Arcario, Angelica Baez, Kit Howard. Hi, Kit. Myself, Annalisa, and then we have Joe Mazingo, Heather Scattergood, back there, Meg Storm, Joe Tramontana, and Lee Velez. All right. Yeah. All right, so before we start, I just want to show you guys. Well, actually, I'll do it this way first. So our search timeline actually started, the committee was formed in February, and from the beginning of March till probably about last week, we had listening sessions throughout the organization, throughout the parish, throughout the business mind. So on the bottom here, you'll see that there's a summary. We had 6 listening sessions. We had both virtual and in-person ones. And we had a survey, both paper and online, that went out. We also had a mailing that went out, especially for our parishioners who are shut-ins. So they definitely received one. And then we had committee-focused sessions. We had sessions with our finance committee, we had sessions with our property committee, the choir, vestry, the staff, and I know I'm forgetting another one. Is it the youth? Yes, big one, the youth. As well as I think Joe's doing Yarns of Love and Daughters of the King. And then throughout those sessions, we heard the feedback, and there's some specific issues that, we'll go over in the summary. However, there are some issues that are pertinent to some things that are going on right now at the Nativity, and those will be communicated specifically with Reverend Hart. Okay, so those pertinent issues. So now you're probably saying, how do you keep track of all this stuff? Well, thanks to our Meg Storm. So this is what we call our project management program. So we have It's called Base Camp, and everything flows through Base Camp. We have information here about the budget, call for Dean. We have a master schedule, so all the meetings or anything that happens goes on that master schedules. Once we start having candidates coming in, you'll have information in the candidates. And then we have listening sessions, so anything pertaining to that. So we split the committee up into different subcommittees. One of them is the listening session subcommittee. The other one is the profile and parish portfolio committee. And then we have one that's specific for the website. Okay? And each of those committees has a chair, and then we hold meetings, as needed. And right now it's on a weekly basis, sometimes multiple times a week. So, and this is how we keep track of it all. So we just go to base camp, we find out where we're supposed to be, when we're supposed to be there, what the Zoom link is to log in, and whether it's in person or virtual, and get there. So thank you to Meg for introducing that to us. It's been a lifesaver for a lot of us. So that's where we stand there. All right, I'm gonna now put this in slideshow so it's a little bit better. Okay, so if you recall the survey that we sent out, right, or when we had the listening sessions, we had 4 specific questions that we wanted you to focus on, and then we had 2 specific ones that we were specific to the dean, right? Like, what questions do you have for the dean, and what do you want the dean to know? So what we did was we took all that feedback that we received and we split it into sections. And you'll see that for each question, some of the sections pertain to youth, ministry, general questions, general feedback. So that's how we split that up. So for the first one, which is the best experiences at the cathedral, as you can see, from the youth, we have camp. Camp has been going on for over 100 years. So that's definitely something that stands out, especially with our youth, forming relationships with others. And we know that, from those of you that are in the room, I know a lot of your kids are adult age now, and I know that they've all attended camp and are friends with people, that started out their youth here at the cathedral, and we're in camp together. So welcoming community for youth and children, and having a child just grow up in the community. I know for myself, I've been at the cathedral for 13 years, 12 and a half years. Mark is 12. He's going to be 13 in July. It's a little crazy to even think about. Exactly, Meg. Right. And I know many of you remember Marilyn being pregnant and us having our child. And he was baptized here, and now he's going to be a teenager. It's crazy. But it's been wonderful for him, and for us. So the ministry part, women's retreats were some of the best experiences. You have your past and present luncheons. We also have the altar guild, and then the refugee ministry was one that was a huge feedback, a huge focus on feedback that we received, especially watching the family be able to be self-sufficient after we took care of them for a little bit. The music program, our choir received numerous kudos, and just how wonderful they are, and the music, the arts program, the just general arts program that we have. And then in general, the acceptance and friendliness that we invite to everybody that comes into the cathedral, for us to be an inclusive community. And one of the folks actually put in there, folks, it's about love, and that's what Nativity Cathedral is all about. And then I took actually a quote from someone, and this person put in there, raising a child at the cathedral and seeing the impact that it has on her spirituality. Okay, so you'll see some quotes here and there. And then from the worship part, we have the liturgy and the sacraments. Many people enjoy the 3-2-1 service. I know I just saw many of you there. And then just the worshiping space overall, and being able to have different types of worship services. Any questions?
And feel free to ask.
Yeah,
at any time.
Otherwise, you're just going to be me up here. Okay. Question number 2 was about our joys, blessings, and accomplishments. Again, with our youth, the pilgrimages. Enjoyed Navajo Land, New Orleans, multiple trips to different cities. Continued youth programming, and then youth in leadership roles, which we're seeing now with our camp counselors, right? And then ministry focus, different ministries, as you can see up there, the Wales Pilgrimage, Refugee Settlement, our Healing Ministry, New Bethany, the Homeless Shelter, Thrift Shop, and we could probably go on and on. These are some of the ones that, again, were some of the main focus.
Annalisa?
Yes?
Are those listed in a specific order?
No, they're not. Good question, though. We just, it was just the major points, and we just put them up there.
It was impressive on how similar each listening session was, and just the comments on the survey, which was really nice. So, I mean, honestly, like over and over and over, we saw the same responses. Both, are great experiences and opportunities for improvement. So.
Yeah.
There was just one thing missing that I hadn't thought of before, except that I did now. There was a ministry group for a pilgrimage for adults besides Wales, which was to Rome, to our sister parish there, at St. Paul's within the walls. Maybe someday that kind of thing would happen again.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, but that was the same thing that the pilgrimage to Wales and the pilgrimage to Rome.
Exactly.
That was in a couple of the
Mhm.
listening sessions. Yeah.
Absolutely. For the worship services, the Hispanic service, the 3-2-1, the live stream for anyone who could not make it. As you can tell, we live stream the adult forum as well, and then the Celtic service. And then in general, our capital campaign, our response to COVID and how we were able to still be able to have all our services, whether it was through Zoom or whether it was capping the amount of people that could be at church, in a certain time. Our clergy, Tony's morning devotions. I know that, for a lot of us, that was a big thing, especially during COVID. The community building with fun events, the sip and paint, the dinner groups, and then the broadcast services and enhancements. And then the one that I just, we highlighted because everyone, there were a lot of people that said that we just lived the mission of the cathedral. So just making that a point that, we know that we want the next dean to know that information too, and you'll see that on there. So then the next question was opportunities for us to do some things differently. And welcoming new members was probably, I want to say, one of the top things. Just bringing back the welcome lunches, just a way for us to be able to engage those new members into our ministries, finding out what really speaks to them and being able to, I think one of them says, being able to handhold them, one of them, welcoming new members and folks, mentoring them, hand-holding them to make sure that they are integrated and find the right mission for them. So what really speaks to them, right? What are they called to? And do we have something here at the cathedral that, they are called to that we can help them with?
That's not literally hand holding.
Yeah.
Have to be careful.
Yes. And for everybody who doesn't know, that's Lee Velez. He's a member of our committee. Safety in and outside of the cathedral, opportunity for that. We know the parking has been an opportunity for 100 years, right? Everybody's saying that. Communication, the search process overall, and we're hoping that by doing things like the adult forum or just communication in general, that's going to help with the search process. Coffee hour, the Alpha Lecture Series, lost social aspect for adults, dinner groups, and possibly include like maybe start cooking classes. We're just, people were brainstorming as to what are some of the things that can engage people in the neighborhood. Past and present luncheon, which involved people outside of the community as well. Name tags at adult forum. I think that's a good idea. And then speed dating type program in between services to meet and greet each other. Social times to meet all new people and then make that the adult forum. So that's a thought. Going back and forth. So those are some of the general ones. For worship, some of the comments were integrating services, including children in the services, especially in more traditional services. The sound system, which I know that we continue to work on, right? But we do have, am I able to say that? The technology committee, right?
Led by next door.
Led by next door. So, and Mr. Paul Fox over here, and Preston, thank you.
We've had sound system problems almost as long as we've had parking issues.
Okay. Need for the altar guild and ushers, also integrate different parts of the cathedral at different times, like Hispanic service members not joining in other events, so making sure that we incorporate younger, the younger generation in the services. Bilingual service at least once a month at the 10:30. The tent services were wonderful, so I know a lot of people wanted the tent to come back. And then drive-through blessings. And for outreach, we have church access to the wider community, not just, to the south side, but just, making it known throughout the Lehigh Valley so that people don't think that we're just a museum, right, or a pretty building. And for the youth, better transition plan from camp director to camp director. We do need younger kids to get more involved. And then we would love to see a day when the youth is in charge of everything at a 10:30 service. Right? And then from a property standpoint, just to get a lot more folks engaged in things that can be done around the church. So the new dean must get behind this as well. And then using the space that we have a little bit better. So like as a welcoming center, possibility to use the space in Sayre Hall or even here in the dining room. And then having the stage opportunities to bring people in for, whether it's shows or things like that. So what are our resources and how can we partner with our outside community to make sure that, they know what those resources are and, they can take advantage of that. And then one of the quotes was a welcoming spiritual center for not only South Bethlehem, but the Lehigh Valley as a whole. And then question number 4 was, what would success look like 10 years from now? So from a property standpoint, modernizing the facilities with the Reaching Up and Reaching Out campaign, making a lot of those enhancements to the property, better utilizing the space, chairs, not pews. We won't even get into that. I'm just going to put it out there, that's all. Melting spot with outdoor space, incorporate the neighborhood, having a nativity food truck, so we can have something out there and then people can come. Outdoor gathering, the tent, a new sign, which I know that that's coming very shortly, so hang in there. And then how to make church sustainable, how to stop patching or maybe build a new facility. You know, when do you say when is when? You know, enough is enough. Like how many more patches can the roof take? You know, that type of thing. And then scrubbing the deanery. I'm just going to leave that there as well, okay?
What's the definition of scrubbing?
I don't know. That could be, you know, interpreted in a lot of ways. But I think from the comments, it was like, yeah, getting rid of it.
Oh.
Like getting rid of it.
Oh, I thought it was a deep clean.
No, I don't think so.
That's why I asked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, there's two up there that were mine, and scrub the deanery is one of them.
Uh-huh.
I just wanna go back. I just meant if we could have changed it like we did the bell tower. To me, sometimes it looks like dark and scary.
Oh, so what's
So
that? It is a deep cleaning. Oh, okay, there you go.
And can I go back to, speed dating was mine as well, and what I meant by that, I know that looks strange when I looked at it.
No, I think it's an
Yeah,
awesome.
if we had a forum or something, we were like this, and we just all kept changing.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people, I always go back to the people I know. I
Right.
don't ever talk to the people I don't know.
Yeah.
But if we had.
Something like that, yeah.
So I didn't want somebody to think that I was really talking about dating. Or
No,
a nice-
absolutely. It's like a mandatory meet and greet. You know, like, yeah, this is what you need to do. 2 minutes, tell me a little bit about yourself,
Right.
move on. Okay, next one, right?
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Is melting spot a typo? Is that supposed to be meeting spot?
Meeting.
I think it's probably meeting spot. Sorry.
But that shows we're actually listening, so.
See?
We know what's happening. It's not us making this.
Look,
up.
I can, that was, exactly. I'm gonna fix it right now.
Like melting pot is rubs me.
I actually thought it was melting pot at first, and then I was like, what? Yeah.
Melting place.
Yeah. Meeting spot's
Really
really
hot days.
melting pot is.
Yeah. Here you go. Love it. Love technology. Woohoo. All right. Scrub the deanery. So we're gonna have to do a deep cleaning of the deanery. Better than what I thought, because I've heard other things when it comes to the scrub the deanery. So, all right, youth, multi-generational, young adults and fellowship opportunities for the youth. Continue to attract youth to the church, because no youth equals no church. Bringing families in, keeping the camp, because for a lot of the youth, that's definitely holds a special place in the heart. Lots of youth involvement with the increased diversity, and expand the camp to include more children in and out of church. Okay, so opening it up to everyone in the community. And I know that for some time, I know the times that I've been up there, there have been times when some of our children have brought some of their friends that are outside of the church. So, but to expand a little bit more on that. And then from an outreach standpoint, secular component, local community relationships, bringing the seniors to church, senior group, planned activities for seniors, such as car night, or just bringing that community together. And really reaching out to our community to meet our planned capital project goals, because for part of the reaching up and reaching out campaign is to reach out to our community. And then instead of the pretty building at the hill or the museum, right, making Cathedral the gateway to South Bethlehem, making it vibrant and always having activities of all kinds to bring people in.
And Lisa?
That's 10 years from now. Yes, Lee.
Multi-generational, what did that mean?
I know you did the one
I
for.
think it was even like multi-generational, like with participation within worship. I think that was a common theme.
And it may have been a comment of mine, but having you work with older
Good.
people and just really working across the whole age spectrum.
Right.
Not just, younger youth and older youth, but.
Preston.
Can you elaborate a little more on what secular component refers to under outreach?
That would be more to the wider community. that was what we got a lot of feedback from, to make this place, as Annalise said, you know, the gateway to South Bethlehem, includes Lehigh Valley, open the space up to various groups that need a meeting space. We've done that in the past, and you know, we want to keep doing that.
Thank you.
Not just, you know, spirituality and religious types, but you know, pretty much anything. We had the Al-Anon people here, we had vets here, we had, you know, all sorts of different things in the past.
Yeah, we did first night where we had concerts in here and sold soup and cookies and.
All that.
And then from a general standpoint, what would 10 years look like? Having a dean that will stay long term and grow with the church. Stop maintaining something that's past its life. You know, is there a better way? And then from a worship standpoint, the Hispanic liturgy is good, and including the youth in that, but we need to continue to build on that and also integrate it with others at the church. Okay. So now we get to the questions or to the statements. What would you like the next dean to know? And I don't want to read all of these. I mean, I'm hoping that a lot of you can see the screen from where you're at. I'll just highlight some of them. We want the next dean to know that the history of this parish is rich and full, and learn the history of it so that we can better interact with the diocese. And then also learn the roots of the cathedral, how it became what it is, you know, where we started and where we're at. We want the next dean to feel that Nativity needs to be a place where all feel welcome and valued. We also want to invite a wider range of leaders in the church, so duties are spread out amongst many people, not just one or two. And then the cathedral is embedded in tradition, but has always been flexible and diverse to stay relevant, to current times. And number 11, the church needs to make a step change away from some of the comfortable traditions that got us to where we are today. The world and our culture is very different than it was in the 50s. There are very good things happening in Nativity, but there needs to be a vision that will keep Nativity relevant going forward. And then we must exercise radical welcome to all those who enter. Any questions on any of these? All right, from an outreach standpoint, highlighting the thrift shop and that it is a vital community resource. And the new dean should speak Spanish. The cathedral has many active subgroups that need to be supported, and finding people to drive those committees is a challenge. And then while it is of the utmost importance that we continue to incorporate the youth in our life and community, we have a large number of elderly parishioners who also must be ministered and cared for. And then that we are open and love our neighbors and community and want to be a welcoming and exciting place. From a youth standpoint, younger people need to get more involved in the church activities. And then Sunday school has been has been dramatically watered down. Our young people could benefit from more actual instruction relating to the Bible and our church as a whole. Youth is very important at Nativity. We would expect that this would be an important part of the dean's ministry here. And then continue the pilgrimages and missions. So, and then from a worship and liturgy, we want wonderful homilies, church held within the hour.
Nobody's gonna own up to saying that one, right?
7.5 minutes.
Sermons should be tied to scripture and should guide us in incorporating them in our daily lives. We should continue the different types of services and then also be mindful of kids' needs in services, the length, the language, the personalization of it.
A question?
Yes.
Sunday school has been dramatically watered down. What was meant by that, or is something going on that we should know
It was more
Not-
I'm a Sunday
to more,
school teacher, and I
Yeah.
think that they went back to godly play
Yeah.
to start with, and I think that it might be referring to how it has changed. It had been godly play, then it had been a different form that they were using for several years, and now it's back to godly play.
Mhm.
All the kids come together in the beginning of it, and then we break out based on age, and then we teach those age groups based on what godly play is teaching.
that, and I think the more traditional Sunday school
Right.
with Bible study, that kind
Thank you, Heather. From a personal standpoint, we want the next dean to know that it should be easy to get to know him or her, and we want to get to know them personally, and we want them to get to know us as well. And then from music, services should include choral, Eucharist in particular, but should not become concerts. This should allow for plenty of congregation participation in singing. And then from a facility standpoint, we need to develop a long-term financial plan to address how we can support the increasing maintenance costs of the property.
I just have one more comment about the youth, because really over this past year, I mean over the last several years, we struggled with the older group, so we were trying to meet on Sunday mornings to have some kind of Sunday school for the older kids. And with all the activities, I can't even tell you like how many field hockey tournaments or gymnastics or baseball or whatever is happening on Sunday morning. So our attendance was extremely low. So we have gone to a format where we're trying to meet in the afternoons, on Sunday afternoons, and doing some type of activity with the kids so that they can bond or do some service activity. But it's been a struggle with the competing activities that everyone's going through.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Choir practice.
May I make a suggestion?
No.
You all get later.
Go ahead, Bonnie.
I'll make comments on you later. But have you ever considered
Fill the
like
survey.
making a youth group that meets on different nights? I know as I grew up as a Lutheran, we had our Lutheran week. It didn't necessarily meet on Sunday and competed with the Sunday schedule. We met on Thursdays and Friday nights, alternating through months. That it was like something that was a little less constricted to the fact that you're in sports and it always is competing, and it gave each week, if someone's competing on a Friday, the next, it was every 2 weeks unfortunately, but the next week you were meeting on a Thursday, so if you were a Friday night competitor, Thursday night you could attend your youth group. It's just a flexible way of looking at it, and it was not based on, it was more like you said, community service. We did a lot of community service, and based on the seasons. There was a lot of interaction with elderly people, believe it or not, and it helped. It grew me into a person realizing I'm going to get to that age one day, so be kind. And I'm not that age now. Don't tell anybody.
And I'm new to Nativity, but in churches in the past when youth have been involved, it often was around them cooking a meal together every time, or having a meal prepared for them so that they could have a supper together and maybe a Eucharist around the table, and then do whatever service they're doing before or after. But that almost always drew them.
Is the age you're talking about like older elementary or teen, or what's the
Teen.
sort of
Teen. Food works for everybody, I think. Thank you.
And then these are some of the questions that we would like to ask the next dean. So in general, what's unique about you that you will bring to the cathedral? How can we maximize what everyone can contribute? I don't mean financially, I mean what does everyone naturally bring to the table? And how can that be brought out? From a personal standpoint, what influenced you to become a priest? Describe your prayer life. What's the most meaningful piece of liturgy or Bible reading to you, and why? Are you bilingual? And then how do your passions and personal mission meld with what you have heard or the vision of the cathedral. And this person put, I feel that their personal passions need to naturally align with what we hold as our highest values and visions. When it comes to growth, we want to ask, what is the plan for growth and survival of the church? And how will you grow the congregation? How will you grow and maintain the viability of Nativity given the demographic trends in mainline Protestant churches and specifically the Episcopal Church? And how can the church reinvigorate attendance coming out of the COVID downturn? And then what kind of vision do you have for the cathedral for the next 10 years? Then we have, yes.
The committee, are you looking for the dean's background? What kind of experiences are you searching for other people?
Yes. So
yes to all.
What we're searching for is what the feedback that we got from parish. So we're looking to, are they involved in youth? Are they bilingual? Do they value all the different things that we put down as what we as a community value?
I didn't talk about practical experience.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll look at that too. How long have they been? How old are they?
Do you have specific things in mind? So many years experience here?
Well, I think one of the things was we want whoever comes.
You want me to shut up?
No. Absolutely fine. That's what we want. We want the feedback, though. But I think one of the things up there was very telling, and we saw this a couple of times, is that we want someone who's here for the long term. We don't want someone coming 5 years, 6 years, and then heading out. We'd like to have someone 10 plus years to be here, and that commitment is something that we're going to be looking for, as well as the experience, how long they've been a priest, and what they've done in the past. Yeah.
So we have Judy Stark, who's our consultant for the search process. So she actually used to be a member here at the cathedral, but now lives down in Florida. But she is a consultant for multiple Episcopal churches. She actually helped us with the bishop search, and now is helping us here. So she's going to come up probably in May to meet with our committee again, and we're going to talk through the specifics of how we're going to approach and analyze and screen each of these candidates. And using this information from the profile, we'll build out a grid, and scoring system and all of that. But certainly, just in general, we're looking for somebody who is not fresh out of seminary, who does have some, because there's some of that practical management experience. I mean, we think about the dean and rector as being the CEO of an organization, if you want to put it in non-religious terms. So we do need somebody who can manage staff, manage clergy, run an organization, and then certainly we also need that spiritual side, the ministry side, and those specific priorities. So somebody with a little bit more experience, but not someone who's going to retire in a year or two.
Can I
Bonnie,
is there any kind of follow-up? I like what you got. The one thing I think is one of the most vital things that you've got in front of you is how does a church go into the future and maintain a congregation? And I like the question about, what do you intend, what's your site forward, what do you intend to do for us? But in direction to what you just said, a specific follow-up question, what projects have you been involved in at a previous church? You may be relying on them to say something, well, this is my vision for your church, but what has been your actual experience? And can that be a specific question? Because somebody who doesn't have the experience, it's nice to have, somebody who's really excited, but somebody who has already had a concrete experience and knows what they're doing, I think is what this church needs. We've established a new congregation, which is beautiful. I've been active in it. But we need somebody to keep growing both ends. If not, we see what happens in the world. Specific questions for that would be nice.
Okay, thank you. I will add that. Yes.
I commend you on all the effort you put in this and the good ideas that have been presented. But I wonder, I presume at some point you're going to run this by the ecclesiastical authorities, the bishop and the in the past, the bishops had an assistant, and maybe he has one now, called the archdeacon, whose job is to be kind of an intermediary between the bishop and the clergy in general, and I think part of that was in helping to bring on a new dean.
Is that in transition?
Yeah. Thanks, Mary. We are working very closely with the diocese on this, and they have a specific person, Canon Melinda, Hartman, who is working directly with the dean on transition. That's her specific job title. So whenever a new priest is needed in the diocese, she is part of that process. So we're working, almost weekly.
Yeah, I mean, we can hire a rector, but the bishop makes him a dean.
Well, he gets the thumbs up or thumbs down.
Yeah.
He's the first one. Yeah.
He also has to approve the profile, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All of those things. Yeah. So that's what he said. That's why we're working with Canon Hartman. She's helping us with this.
Hi, Mary.
Hey, so if there's a consultant, does the process still follow the usual route of being put in a national database and people being able to see it? And so what does the consultant do?
The consultant?
Since that's out there.
Yeah, so Judy actually, we had met with Judy in the beginning of February, so she laid out a suggested timeline for us and what the process, should look like. She gave us guidance and examples of this is what your parish profile should look like. Or, here's examples of some good ones, and maybe because there's some that are not quite as good. So there's the parish profile, which will go up on our website, and that should be happening soon once we finalize it. That will include this information and include more information about Nativity. There's the community ministry portfolio, which she described as the help wanted ad, and that's what goes up on the national database. So she's reviewing all of our material and giving us feedback like, ooh, I don't know what you're talking about here, it makes sense to you, but maybe not to the outside person. So she's helping us, looking at our website and just giving that feedback. And then the next part of it, when she comes up, she's going to actually walk us through, again, like how to screen candidates and how to go through that process, what that should look like. Should we, how do we interview them? What do we do with site visits? How do we make a final decision? So she's giving us all the input. And then probably most importantly is she has connections because she does all this consulting all around the Episcopal Church. She may know somebody who's thinking about wanting to change positions, and can she direct that person our way? So that's just another piece of what she's doing.
And she's able to put all that information in the database as well, right? They can share that?
So Melinda Artman will put it into the database, and then Melinda also was going to, this past week, she went to a transition conference, so she took our job description with her, so even though we're not formally advertising, she took our position to that conference and was going to meet with the other transition officers in other dioceses in case there was somebody out there.
Questions?
And
All right.
And Elise, I'd like to add on about Judy Stark and the diocesan kind of relationship. When this whole ordeal started, after Tony gave notice, and we started the process of first looking for an interim, and then realizing that a consultant would be very helpful in this process. Bishop Kevin is very involved with that and gave his blessing. When he heard that we hired Judy, was very pleased and said, "No, that's awesome." So, just know that there's a good working relationship between not just us and Judy and ourselves and the bishop, but really a really good teamwork component overall. So.
Well, yeah, and what I'm witnessing here is that, and I'm thinking that that's what this person will do, is provide the common language.
Yes.
That we express what we want, and she can help us translate that into what that means in other terms throughout. Because it's just as we've read this, there's, what does this mean?
Exactly.
That's commercial.
I think the other thing is, she's been a really great coach to the search committee. Last time we did this was 15 years ago, so, hopefully we won't have to do it for another 15 years. But, but basically the idea is how do you coach the best way, the best practices. Also, she came in and trained the search committee, sort of led them through the responsibilities and how to achieve it, and a lot of the questions and so forth came from her. So, I think she's an experienced coach more than anything.
All right, so I know I'm pressed for time here, so I just want to go through the questions for the next dean as it relates to political issues. How will you navigate the tense political situation without ignoring controversial issues, knowing that you may influence some? How will you work to make congregants of all political persuasions and backgrounds feel welcome and valued at Nativity? And how do you view or practice with regard to divisive issues, such as CRT, wokeness, political correctness, conservatism, equity, social justice, etc.?
How about a fourth one? Who did you vote for in the last time?
No way that you know about it. Judy said no way.
And we're going to move on. All right. Outreach. We want to ask the next dean, how do you make the cathedral more inclusive and attract local residents to the church? Evangelism gets very little funds on our budget, yet we are called to tell the good news of Jesus Christ. Yes, we testify by example in our good works, but how would you really express your faith and belief as an evangelist to a non-believer? Would you encourage church members to do so as well? And will you actively support our Latino ministry and our infant mission work in South Bethlehem? And from our youth, or in regards to youth, we want to ask, how will you engage the youth? How important are youth ministries to you, and what would you do to promote the program? And what will you do to help families feel known and cared for? Some of the questions for the liturgy and worship. Will you keep more traditional services? Are you committed to using traditional Book of Common Prayer liturgies in your worship planning? Will you actively support offering a variety of worship? So, you can see some prefer the traditional, some prefer varieties. How would you feel about including youth in our main worship service? And how important is an emphasis on Scripture to you?
And then chairs versus pews did come up in here, but we crossed that.
That's right after who you voted for.
Exactly. And then under other, will you do pilgrimages? Would you agree to not change anything about Nativity for your first year? And then discuss with the vestry the direction you think we should go. What can you do to help us become the community of the way of love as we are learning from our presiding Bishop Curry? And what's your favorite baseball team and your color? All right, I think that's pretty much it. Anything on the questions or the feedback from that? Because then I want to talk a little bit about the search committee's next steps. So we do have it. Yes, Preston.
Are you still taking suggestions like through email?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The email for the search committee is in the bulletin. Feel free to send the suggestions or anything at any time.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you could do that today, or tell me, because our next step is we actually have a newsletter that's going to go out that summarizes all the responses too. So that was going to go out shortly.
Okay.
Yes,
I'm not sure this is about the search, but I noticed that there was nothing in there about our parish and our connection and responsibility to the diocese. For example, I don't know how many people know about the northern congregation and the southern. Belinda is in the northern, but eventually Barbara will be. And we would like some of our community to serve on the diocesan committee, but people need to know about them, so somehow a connection with the diocese.
So, the very next step after the newsletter is to complete the parish profile. And that's why the listening sessions have been so important and imperative for us, because we take that feedback and we're putting that feedback into the parish profile. So that will be done, I gotta take a look at the timeline, but I think within the next like 2 to 3 weeks, right? And then we're gonna continue to work on the portfolio piece, the parish portfolio, the community portfolio, and the enhancements to the website. So I don't know if you guys have been on the website lately, but there have been lots of enhancements, and kudos to Meg and her team for that. Yes. Photos, feedback, any of that. And then in May, we will be meeting with Judy to go over some of those next steps with her. Okay. So while we do that, we would like for you to continue praying for the search committee, right? And we thank you for that. And we thank you for the prayers that you've already been doing. So we appreciate all the feedback. And if you know of anybody that has more feedback to give us, please guide them to the email address, or guide them to, talk to any one of us, and we will go ahead and make sure that that feedback is heard. Tom?
And Alicia, you had it on very early, but what is the timeline? What is the anticipated timeline?
So the profile looks like in April, right? So this month we will be completing the profile, and then the portfolio will go from May on. I think after we meet with Judy, we're going to be starting the portfolio before she comes, but
yeah, we've already started on
yeah,
that.
It's almost done.
Yeah,
we're working on that as well. So
yeah.
So when do we post on the national?
We'll definitely wait
till after we meet with Judy. Yeah,
and make sure that everything's clearly understood.
So May-ish.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it looks like summer and fall is interviews.
Well, actually, it's got to go out, and then we have to wait for responses, and then we can wade through all the responses, and as Connie was saying, we'll have a score sheet as to do they hit all the buttons that we're looking for, and we can weed out candidates that way, and then we have to go to do the interviews. So there's visiting, or they come here, we go there. That's not a quick process, so that takes time.
Yes.
Well, that's right. Thank you guys for all your work and your time.
Yeah.
Yes.
So kind.
I have one quick question.
Yes.
You said weed out process. Is one weed out definitely a Spanish they don't speak if they're not even considered?
We're going to look at everything, Bonnie, so let's be clear. It's like that's not going to be a yes, no. If you don't speak Spanish, you're out. They can be the best candidate in the world, and they can probably learn Spanish.
Yeah, and we have other positions too, with the associate.
Understood.
Yeah,
I was just wondering, were there any buttons? That's one button I'm very interested in. I love the Spanish congregation. They're really fabulous.
I mean, I feel like we're committed to at least one of the clergy positions being able to speak Spanish.
The only problem is when you lose one, then you lose the option of continuing on without trying to find somebody else. And being the fact that we are sitting in a Spanish-speaking culture on the south side, if a priest walks out this door, as I get on Saturdays when I'm in the altar guild, I actually have Spanish. Thank God they had children with me. They walked in, they wanted to see the church. And I had children that spoke both English and Spanish, but I guide them around the church and say, come with me. You may not always have that person who can be a translator for you. And this is very important because they walk in this church. If those doors are open even for altar guild, there are people walking in. And I don't go, oh, I'm sorry, we're closed. Hi, I'm Bonnie. What's your name? What can I do for you? Would you like to see the church? And not speaking Spanish and being the people who may walk in off the streets to see this church, it helps if you know Spanish. I'm trying to take Spanish. I'll get there sometime.
Any other thoughts?
And these comments, these are all things that I think, you know, we're not writing the notes down. If you guys feel really strongly about it, please email it to us or pull us inside and say, please jot this down. We want you to take this and add this to the listening session documentation. Just make sure you're communicating with us, please. Yeah. Can't always remember everything.
All right, well, I want to thank you guys for your time, and
Thank you to the search committee.
Yes, thank you. How are you? How was your trip? Yeah? You went to Iceland, right?